Good morning, Sanctuary. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Palm Sunday here at the Sanctuary. I'm Mike Robertson. I'm happy that you've decided to join with us this morning. It's good to see those of you who are in the chat room over there. Appreciate you being here. I appreciate you chiming in. And I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited that you're here. I tell you, I'm standing in the church right now. It feels so good in here. The whole place has been scrubbed clean. The floors have been polished. It smells nice. It looks great in here. The bathrooms are done. They've still got some final cosmetic touches, but they're fully functional. They're going to be ready next Sunday. I can't wait till next Sunday is here. Not just because it's Easter, but because I hope you're going to be here. I'm excited because we finally get to come back together and worship in the same place. You know, it's one of those things where you don't know how down you feel until you get up, until the burden has been lifted somewhat. And the fact that many of us have had our vaccines, and the fact that things are getting better and the weather is beautiful, and our church everything is working. The lights are working. You can probably see me better than you have for several weeks. It's all good. It's all awakening in me a desire to start over anew. And that's what next Sunday is going to be, 11 o'clock Easter Sunday. I hope you will make plans to be here. We're also, in addition to it being Easter, we're going to have communion that day as part of our service. We're doing it in a way that's very safe, and no need to be concerned about the social distancing aspect of that. We got it all taken care of. So it's going to be a beautiful day for many reasons, but you're not going to know unless you're here. So please make your plans to join us next Sunday for Easter. All right, I'm not going to announce anything else. I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's get right down to today's message. Do you like parades? Have you ever been to a really big parade? I guess most of the parades I've been to were like high school homecoming parades. And when I was in marching band, I marched in a lot of parades. A few years ago, I got to go to the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade in New York City, and that was really neat. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people lining the streets. It actually was snowing just a tiny bit. Big flakes of snow were falling as we watched these incredible floats and balloons and bands go by. That was really cool. There's something about a parade that's very exciting. If you haven't ever been to one, you've seen the pictures, though, of the massive ticker tape parades that take place, usually honoring some hero, a war hero, an astronaut, or a world leader, a president, someone who's done something noteworthy. And if you look at the footage and the pictures of these moments, everybody's excited. Everybody's waving. Everybody's shouting and cheering and throwing things in the air in celebration. It's a really joyous thing to watch. And that's why it's so sobering. It's such a contrast when you see pictures of the parade that Palm Sunday is all about. The parade when Jesus makes his entry into Jerusalem the week he is going to be executed there. Palm Sunday is called Palm Sunday, of course, because of the people waving palm branches as Jesus entered that day. You notice in some of these artist representations, of course, these aren't photographs, these are an artist rendition, but while there are people in the crowd excited and cheering, the guest of honor doesn't look happy at all, doesn't look excited at all. And there's good reason for that. Jesus is riding into town on this donkey that's never been ridden before, and that was to fulfill an Old Testament prophecy. But he's riding into town, and the people spontaneously break out in this huge celebration. It would be interesting to know how that started. Who said, hey, let's pick up some palm branches and wave them when Jesus comes into town? Hey, let's shout Hosanna when we see him coming. Now, you may think that Hosanna means something like hip, hip, hooray, or huzzah, he's here, yippee. Hosanna means save us, liberate us, help us. It is a cry for help. And so I'm not sure if the photos of people expressing such joy and enthusiasm. I don't know if those are completely right or not, because people shouting, "Help us," I think would have a different expression than people saying, "Hooray, he's here." But the people were shouting, "Hosanna." Why? Because they believed that the Messiah had finally come and he was going to free them from Roman oppression. They believed that Jesus was coming, and many of them thought, well, this is the Messiah. This is what we've been waiting for. But they didn't realize that what the Messiah was coming to do was not what they thought he was coming to do. He was not coming to overthrow the Roman government. In fact, Jesus had little interest in governments at all. I always get very wary when any politician claims that God is on my side. I'm not sure God is concerned with our politics as much as we often believe he is or proclaim that he is. And I'll tell you more in just a second why I think that. But they're shouting, "Save us!" And Jesus has come to save them, but not from the Roman government. He's come to save them from something completely different. I don't know how this parade got started that day, but it was a big deal. Hundreds, if not thousands of people turned out to line the streets as Jesus rides into town. But as I said, he doesn't look happy. He doesn't look enthusiastic. And why should he? Because Jesus knows he's entering the hardest week that any human being has ever had to endure. He knows what is ahead of him. He knows that in just a few short days, he's going to be executed in a horrible fashion. He knows that. How do you proceed through life knowing that that's coming? You know, I sometimes think that maybe the most human thing Jesus ever did was to worry, to feel the pressure of what was coming his way, to feel the stress and the burden that was being placed upon him. His humanity really shows at this moment in time. But throughout Jesus' ministry, he often downplayed his role as the Messiah. And sometimes he would heal people and then he would say, "Don't tell anybody how this happened." But as he rides into Jerusalem, he's not saying anymore, "Don't tell anybody." Instead, they're all proclaiming that the Messiah has come. It seems like a triumphant story. But when Jesus is knowing what's going to happen, it takes on a whole different tone. It's interesting that the very next day, after his triumphal entry into town, we see him in the temple. And what he finds when he goes to worship at the temple disgusts him. He sees people lining the area around the worship center, making money, making deals, lending money, selling souvenirs. And it infuriates him. And for the only time in the recorded life of Jesus, we see his anger as he fashions a crude weapon and just lashes out at the crowd saying, "Get out of this house. This is my Father's house. You have defiled it." And he chases them out. And I think maybe the most human thing he did was to get angry, was to get mad. His temper boiled over at that moment, and it's something we don't ever see again. So when Jesus comes into town, there's a huge misinterpretation of what he's there to do. All those people saying, "Save us," have one thing in mind. Jesus has something very different in mind. It's like in my life, I've unfortunately had the experience of being a yo-yo dieter. There have been times, more than a couple of times, when I've lost as much as 50 or 60 pounds. And if you've ever had a diet that you successfully lost a substantial amount of weight on, you know what happens. People say, "How'd you do it? How did you do it?" They're very curious to know, how did you change yourself like that? How could you lose all that weight? And then when you tell them, "Well, I cut my calories down to 1,200 a day or whatever it might be, or I followed this diet very carefully. They turn away almost in disgust because they were wanting to hear something magical and different. They were wanting to hear that you had a cheeseburger every day for lunch and ice cream at night and the pounds magically melted away. That's what they want to hear. In the same way, the crowds wanted to hear that Jesus was driving the Romans out and everybody was going to be fine. And that's not what he came to tell them. So his anger boils over. He drives the money changers out. Each step he takes this week is drawing him closer to his painful destiny. Everywhere he goes, everybody is trying to catch him. You think paparazzi today is a problem. You think the news media is a problem. Imagine living the life of Jesus this week when everything you say is scrutinized. Every move you make, every place you go, every person you pause to talk with is examined because the religious leaders are looking for something to bust him on. They're waiting for him to say something racist or blasphemous or treasonous. And so they're always trying to catch him out. They want the soundbite that they can say, aha, look at this. Look at this. So they can prosecute him and, yes, execute him. So they can get him out of their hair and be rid of him forever. He has this confrontation that's been pictured in these last couple of paintings where they say, so are we supposed to pay taxes to the Romans or not? Because they certainly didn't want to. It was an occupying government. They wanted to see what this Messiah would say. Should we pay tax to them or not? And he says, well, show me a coin. And somebody gives him a coin and he says, whose face is on this coin? And they said, Caesar. He said, well, then let Caesar worry about Caesar's concerns. Let God worry about the godly concerns. Render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, but render unto God the things that are God's. Now, a lot of people think that has to do just with money, but this is what I was referring to a while ago when I believe that God doesn't care much about our political systems. He doesn't care if your football team wins on Friday or Saturday. God doesn't take sides in matters like that. There are more important sides, like your salvation, like the quality of your life, like you learning to love like Jesus did. Those are the things that are important to God. Jesus said, put things in perspective. Well, they couldn't really argue with that. They couldn't say, well, he told us not to pay taxes. No, he didn't say that. Or they can't say, he told us that religion was the most important thing. No, he didn't say that. He said there are things that have to do with earthly needs and requirements, and there are things that have to do with heavenly needs and requirements. And so all week long, Jesus is besieged with people trying to find fault. And it has to weigh on him. He has to be emotionally just drained. Now, there's some quiet moments during these 5 days, a few of them. On Thursday night, there's a Passover dinner. And this is the last time Jesus will be with his 12 closest friends. And you'd think, well, that's got to be a restful time. Well, maybe, except Jesus says, one of you is going to sell me out. One of you is going to have me arrested and tried and executed. One of you that's sitting right here at this table with me. Well, that tends to put a damper on the dinner, right? And immediately after that, Jesus goes out to the Garden of Gethsemane, and he agonizes in his prayer. He is drenched in sweat. He worries so intensely, it looks like he could just die. And he prays, if there's any other way, God, let it happen some other way. The weight of what he is going to have to do is so immense. It is taking an incredible toll on him. And I think maybe the most human thing he ever did was to fret, to feel the weight, to feel the burden of his oncoming responsibilities. But Judas shows up and gives him a very bitter kiss to indicate to the soldiers, this is the guy who you want to arrest. He's arrested. There are trials all night long. They can't wait to convict Jesus. He shuttles from one court to another, and by 9 a.m. on Friday, after riding triumphantly into town on Sunday, 9 a.m. on Friday, he is nailed to a cross. Why people refer to this as Good Friday has always mystified me a little bit. Maybe it was good because our salvation came about as a result of his suffering, but I certainly can't imagine Jesus thinking, oh, this is good. This is fine. No, in fact, he was still praying fervently as he hung on the cross. Father, if there's anything, any other way, but still, not my will, but thine. It seems, this Holy Week, as it's referred to, it's more like a gauntlet of unbelievable pain and misery that Jesus has to endure, far beyond what anybody else has ever had to do. And so, at the end of the day, at sundown, when Jesus is found to be dead hanging on the cross, his lifeless body is taken down and it's placed in a tomb, a borrowed tomb. And it seems like that must be the end of the story. But see, what I realize now is the most human thing that Jesus ever did was to die. He wanted to experience what it was like to be a human being. This was part of God's amazing centuries-long plan. He wanted to experience a human life, and he did, and that meant he had to experience a human death as well. The most human thing he ever did was to die. And make no mistake, he died. He wasn't in a coma. He didn't lose consciousness. He didn't fall into a deep sleep. He was dead. The Roman soldier who was standing there guarding him made sure he was dead. And so Jesus is removed from the cross, and he is taken to a grave that's not even his own, provided by someone else, a borrowed tomb, and he is quickly wrapped up and placed in the borrowed tomb, and the giant stone is placed over the door, rolled into place, and sealed. And the light goes out, not just on Jesus' life. The light goes out all over the world. Incredible darkness grips the world. After such a triumphant beginning on Sunday, how could things have gone so far, had gone so wrong as where we find Jesus on Friday night, buried in a borrowed tomb, all is darkness. But the story does not end there, my friends. Spoiler alert, there's more to come. And that more to come we're going to talk about next Sunday on Easter, an appropriate day to talk about rebirth and renewal and a brand new start, because that tomb is not going to stay sealed and it's not going to stay occupied. I hope that you will join us next Sunday live and in person, and that we'll be able to talk face to face. We're going to have communion next Sunday also. It's going to be a beautiful, sweet time in the life of our church. Please don't miss it. Please make an effort to be here. It will be so good to see you as we celebrate the reason we have this church in the first place, the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Until then, God bless you this week. I love you, and I will see you very, very soon. And this time, I'm optimistic that's actually going to happen. I'm not whistling in the dark. I will see you very soon. God bless you.